Today is April 19th, 2018, and today is the resurgence of the whiteboard celebration day.
It is that day. I was just thinking, I don't get up super early. Those are my first words. Those are the first words I've said today, and I'm glad they came out smooth. But yeah, the whiteboard's back. It seems to be helping out a lot of people in the group.
It's a hot topic, man. Why don't you fill in our listeners who may not be familiar with the greatness that is said whiteboard?
Well, it depends on how long you've been listening, but if you've been listening a while, you know that I am, I don't want to say anti-technology because I use technology in a lot of ways. I do video editing and films and things like that and corporate videos, and race videos for CrushingIron.com. And so I deal with a lot of technology and things like that. But as far as triathlon is concerned, I am technologically illiterate or non-conversionist. So I've never had a power meter. I had an old Garmin for a while. Now I have a Suunto, but I just basically use it for myself to kind of look at workouts and use it as a timer. Because I've finally uploaded moves counts on my phone, and it uploaded
moves counts. What's that?
It's the Suunto app.
Fancy. Okay.
Moves count.
Who's counting moves counts? Got it.
Counting your moves. Every move you make. And that's the thing it does, because I finally got it synced up. It took about 3 days, and then everything was uploaded in metric system.
Ooh.
So everything's kilometers and whatever. So none of that's coming together. I don't have it connected to Training Peaks, and that'll be a miracle. Anyway, a long way of getting around to. I'm not big on the tech terms and all the gadgets and things like that. So I thought, well, we were training last year for Louisville. We were doing videos every year, and every once in a while I would throw a whiteboard in there where I would explain what I was doing in my workouts. I'd illustrate it clear and simply for the people who may not be technologically driven. Kind of old school. I'm kind of old school that way. Me and Dave Scott and I can't even go there probably.
You probably can. I'm sure he's adopted. I
have wooden aero bars,
Yeah, I know you do. I know. Whittled and carved by one of the very first Himalayan triathlete monks for safekeeping. But yeah, you are definitely. Hey, you like to keep things simple, and as one of the basis for this entire podcast is to help simplify things for the beginner triathlete and the experienced, because I think it's two different rabbit holes to go down. When you're a beginner, there's just so much information out there that it's hard to decipher and sift through, and then the longer you're in the sport, the deeper you tend to dive, and you can just go down some crazy rabbit holes. So I think that I know that your whiteboard presentations are as we saw yesterday, a very welcome sight for anybody. I think whether it's a seasoned veteran who likes data or not, I think it's good to. I think it's good to see.
Hopefully, it examines the lighter side of triathlon a little bit.
It's true. I think that also helps.
I do think that maybe if you dig deep enough in there might be some nuggets of stuff. But for the most part, I just kind of like to play around with how silly the sport can be sometimes and have fun with it. So that's kind of where that sort of comes from.
Yeah. So in case you didn't pick that up, you can view said whiteboard resurgence video in our closed group. You can just search Crushing Iron Group on Facebook and hop into all the information and triathlon tomfoolery that there is to be had. We have great discussions diving deep into topics, great posts from our forum members, and then the occasional video that we'll try to do more of. So if you're not in there and you want to be part of the conversation and be constructive and be a contributing member, always search us on Facebook at Crushing Iron Group. And if you like what you've heard at any point in any podcast, whether this is your, your first 3 minutes or your 30th episode, please make sure to go over to iTunes and subscribe. We come out twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays. We have so for a little over a year and a half, and we'll continue to do so. So please feel free to leave us a review. Let us know your thoughts. It helps other triathletes, new and old, find us and let them decide if we're actually have anything beneficial to say once we get past the first 15 minutes of, not much triathlon talk. So do that, and then, hey, if you feel even more inclined to support these two older chaps in their podcast triathlon journey, you can hit us up on our website, crushingiron.com. Go to the podcast pledge and toss us a few bones. We deliver this podcast for free, ad free, sponsor free, commercial free, bottom line, headline free, and we could always use a little help financially, helping cover the cost of storage and equipment and time, and so we can continue to do this awesome thing that is the Crushing Iron Triathlon podcast.
Yeah, that's why I was a couple minutes late, actually. I always have to clear my computer, basically, because it's always getting full to the rim. And I only use it for podcasts, really. And I don't know what's going on with that. But, yeah, so storage and all those things kind of creep into your world.
Mm-hmm.
As a podcaster.
Yeah, professional podcaster. Can I ask, I don't even know the answer to this. Is podcast one word or two words?
It's one, I think.
Are we sure? I see a lot of people do the double, the pod, space, and the cast.
Well, I think there's a lot of that going on now these days.
Yeah, it seems like a new trend.
Like, I was having trouble with whiteboard, but I think that might be two words, but I kind of make it one word. I think we can. I think the English language kind of.
I think you can have a whiteboard and then an actual whiteboard.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. So what I've been. I don't know. What I've been doing is kind of capitalizing white and capitalizing board and putting them together. It's like there's all that stuff's going on these. It seems like there's a lot of words that are very tough for me to figure out. I don't know if it's because I don't read as much as I used to, or I'm losing command of the language. I don't know.
Yeah, and you don't want to.
And people don't write.
Exactly. In this day and age, if you just misspell something or you don't, put two words together, you're probably going to offend somebody.
Yeah, or it's going to be auto-corrected right or wrong. We just don't know anymore. And then if you're reading posts, like if that's your literary exploration of reading Facebook posts, you're probably not getting a good lesson on the grammar.
Yeah, you're probably not. But hey, whatever. It's God bless if anybody ever read how fast I go through and type my Training Peaks comments. I don't even. It would be nice actually if Training Peaks would sync from the coach's aspect when I comment on athletes' workouts. If it would have autocorrect on my iPhone, or on yours where it does the auto emoji. Because I just butcher words. I'm hey, I'm not even gonna go back and correct that one. Who am I trying to impress? But yeah, the whiteboard is back. Check us out, and then I think you can also find us obviously on Instagram at C26_triathlon. You can find us on Twitter at crushingiron.com, and obviously we have a regular Facebook page. You can search Crushing Iron, and then if you want to just figure out what it is we actually do and offer outside of the podcast, you can always go to our one-stop shop. That is crushingiron.com for information on swim analysis, coaching, training plans, blog, gear, triathlon camps, swim camps, and videos. So check that out. Let us know what you think. And if you have any questions, you can always contact Mike at crushingiron@gmail.com. Or you can toss me one as well at c26coach@gmail.com.
Yeah, man. And I was just thinking about, we're right in the thick of it now. The season is here. It's been here, but it seems like
it's fully taking shape.
It's really getting in there now, and in the group alone, the closed Facebook group, we've got over 50 people doing Chattanooga 70.3 in about 31 days. Not that I'm counting. I'm one of them. Coach is one of them.
Yeah.
And we're going to be heading down there pretty soon. I don't know what's on your mind, but that's kind of what's been on my mind is like, we got a month to the race, and you just went through that for Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Let's, for now, this is my A race.
It is.
That's all I got on the calendar.
Yeah, that's all you've signed up for as well.
Yeah. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking it day by day, week by week, race by race for right now.
Race by race.
Yeah. I still have that 10-mile mark of Louisville in my head. It's like
I have a feeling as the days get longer and the sunshine becomes more immense and the warmth overtakes every single hour of every day, that your things will tend to change for you.
It's already happening.
Yeah, I can feel it. I can feel it.
I've found that I've been hitting the pool 3 days in a row now. This will be 4. And I've been doing that at night, which is weird because whenever I start getting back into the pool, it really wrecks me.
Mm-hmm.
So if I try to wake up, and I'm just a weird person that way. Like sometimes if I go earlier in the morning without kind of letting my body kind of adapt to the day and try and do something that I'm not used to, it really knocks me down. So
yep.
I've been flipping that calendar. I've been flipping that shark. Going to the night side pool.
Ooh.
And I like it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I bet you, is it the crowded?
I got to tell you, 2 nights ago I went and there was at least 20 people in there. I was going, oh boy, this is maybe not a good idea. Last night I walked in, I was the only one there at 7.
Oh, nothing better.
I had to the lifeguards are playing hacky sack.
Oh yeah, probably check in, their phone. They're like, oh, here comes this guy. They've already probably checked the chlorine and done all the chemicals, and they're like, yeah, F me. Who's this guy?
Yeah, I know. I was like,
who's this old guy? Ain't he supposed to be in bed by now?
Sorry, dude. Yeah, in bed.
Yep. Gosh.
So.
But good for you, man. Good for you.
So I'm trying to think about, what I'm thinking is that I just need to get in a little better shape. We talk about...
Man, talking about keeping things simple.
Right.
That is definitely there.
That's what I've been doing. It's like I've been trying to figure out this because I always talk about this, how I can get in good swim form and good shape is just swimming a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just insane. And I don't know if I've talked myself into this now or whatever, but 3 days ago I swam and it was like struggles up and down, all over the place. And then I was kind of doing hundreds and just sort of just getting the flow back and trying to find my form. And then the next night I tried to stretch it out to like 3 500s or something like that. And then last night I found the stroke.
You found it. You better go back today then.
Oh, I'm going back. I found it at about, I don't know, 600 meters last night, and I went all the way to 1,500. So I just I kept, and you talk about this before, where, it's one thing to go long, and kind of build your endurance, but in this case, I just was keeping it back to 100s again, and with short rest, and it allowed me to keep in that exact same pocket that I was finding, rather than getting tired and losing it all over the place. So you've always isn't that what you like to say, is it's better to keep good form and go short and hard maybe versus going long and just flailing their last 3 or 4.
Oh yeah, and just do it pointlessly.
Yeah.
Just there's definitely where you just there is no return on your investment. So yeah, and like you said, as the cool kids say these days, you're keeping it 100s.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to keep things short, sweet, and to the point, and keep it short and focused, especially if you're lacking, some swim specific strength. Once you get to a point, it's more, it's like, am I just practicing the wrong stroke? And that's where, tools come in and things like the pull buoy that'll allow you to keep your form a lot easier without putting forth as much energy while letting you just simply focus on the important part of your stroke, which is the catch. So things like that. But yeah, it's great to, I think, always end with just really, really good form. I always try to make sure my last 25 or 50 is, even if it's in my cool down of like a 200 cool down, I'll do like 100, super easy for the cool down, and then another 50 like steady. And then I won't end the 50 with like an all out, because that's not really the point of the cool down, but I will put it about 80% effort and just try to really, really finish just kind of steady and strong. That way, when I get done and when I get out, I had that last, like, man, that swim felt good. Because even like, with a lot of things, like it's all about what, it's all about, using things, or it's mentally, like if your first like 2100s are terrible, then you end it with like the last 5, it's just like gold. And so you're like, oh man, that swim was great, and you finish strong. So it is, there's a lot to be said for finishing strong.
Is that the point of the cool down, or what? I mean, like we've always I think a lot of people have that question, is that I just crushed my ass in this pool, and now you want me to go cool down. What's the point of the cool down in that regard? I mean, in I suppose in everything you'd want to kind of have that.
Yeah, you do, but I mean, you also, if you're depending on how you're stacking workouts, you don't want to have built up all this lactic acid and then just walk out of the pool and let it sit and crystallize. You're going to be more sore the next day. You want to let it move a little bit more. It's like the same thing you see athletes who swim year round the Olympics. They have like an actual cool down pool. Just for athletes, and they get done with their 50 or 100, they want to get in, and because they've got to compete and do another thing. If they don't, all that lactic acid, everything's going to build up and just sit and crystallize. They're going to be more sore, and they're going to be more stiff versus kind of loosening and letting things go out and play. A cool down doesn't mean easy and sloppy. It just means less effort. And so it's also something that needs to be paid attention to.
Can that be transferred into a race? Like what you just said about when they get out and they go in the cool down pool, and I'm not talking about necessarily just the pool, but moving that lactic acid around in the body. So say like you're in a longer triathlon and you're out on the run, and is there any, I guess, bonus or any kind of like benefit from maybe going a little fast and then backing down throughout the race, or you just want to keep it steady?
No. If you're on the run, unless you feel like you have to, the point is never to slow down unless you absolutely have to. The point is to just go as fast as you can for as long as you can. Obviously, you don't want to blow up, but you also, you don't want to like you said, you don't want to blow up. You don't want to overexceed your abilities. But if you're feeling good, then no, you don't ever want to back down, unless you see yourself feeling maybe too good at like mile 6 of a 26-mile marathon. Then maybe you just need to kind of keep in check. But no, once you get towards the end of the race, it's all you got left, because a lot of times, as I think everybody knows, once you take one slower step or one walk, oh man, does it feel good. And it's so much harder to restart the engine and get the body moving again. So no, that's not something that I would think is a good idea.
Okay. Now let's go back to your Texas, because I'm in 30 days out, you're at 30 days out. What kind of stuff were you thinking about a month away from the race? I mean, like, do you remember where you were?
Well, I was not thinking that it would be 49 degrees.
Yeah.
That was not on my mind. Really, it's just about making sure that I don't want to say that I treated every training session like a race, but I really, really tried to. I tried to make sure my preparation was good. I was recovering well. My nutrition was dialed in. I took every workout seriously, whether it was a 25-minute run or an hour and 45 minutes or a 3-hour ride or a 1-hour ride. I really tried to dial things in and take everything seriously, from nutrition, hydration, recovery, mentally going into everything, just making sure that I nailed everything. Because, just like we talked about before in a couple of podcasts, is just kind of how we were just saying, like the end of the swim, you want to end feeling really, really good. Well, you also want that same feeling as your last big workouts coming into a big race.
Mm-hmm.
You want to feel like you really, really nailed them. And you really, really did well. You don't want to just like take it for granted because you've done all the work already, and all this is already done, and all this is already done, and I just can kind of go through the motions because I'm already there. And then you end up having like a sluggish workout, or like I'll had an had an athlete who will remain nameless, like 2 or 3 weeks out from a race. And this athlete went out for like a long run, like an hour and 45 minutes in hot weather,
mm-hmm.
and decided that it was a good time to just see how far they could only make it with water only.
Yeah.
Like worst idea ever.
As the race is coming up.
Yeah, it's in general, it's not really the smartest thing to do.
Right.
It's because, again, we talked about it before, and it was something that I touched on in the last camp, kind of breakdown podcast, is like, you're oftentimes like, you're not just fueling for the workout you're doing now, you're fueling to make sure you have a good workout the next day. And you go out and you try to go just on water for an hour and 45-minute run in the heat. Not only are you going to crumble and die probably at like the halfway point and then have just a horrible run, you're going to be so torched that your next workout's going to suck too. So you've ruined 2 workouts. And not only have you ruined 2 workouts, but you've also given yourself like this negative feeling that is, my last long run or my second to last long run was this. And that's like at that point, because I think everybody has, I don't want to say, not everybody has doubts, but everybody has, anxious thoughts or actual doubts or, negative thought and negative, self-talk. And you don't need to add any horrible, tough, workouts to your last month. Like you want everything to be a positive reinforcement, not a negative reinforcement. And so every workout, that's why you need to take it seriously, because you need to keep building those. You need to keep building that deck of workouts to pull from the night before the race, the days before the race, when you start to have these doubts or negative self-talk. So you can scroll back through your Training Peaks or your workout journal, whatever it is that you use, and remind yourself, see, I did this workout and I nailed it, and I was tired, and I didn't want to, and in this, and so you want to have all these good ones where you can all right, you know what, I can do this, and I've already done this, and now I'm fresh and I can do it even better and even faster. But you don't want to look back and think, oh crap, remember what happened last week? Remember what happened 2 weeks ago? You really have to make things. You can't do that self-sabotage thing, which a lot of athletes do. And in some way, a lot of athletes will mentally talk themselves into a race before they've even, whether it's good or bad, before they even reach the starting line.
Yeah, I think that's a great topic, man, because especially as we get closer to the race, because we talk about it all the time, but it's not. Now isn't when you really build that deep, strong base, right? That foundation. You're getting this close to the race, and if you try to go out there and do real long, hard stuff, you could be, putting yourself in a pickle. So, when I go into these, where I'm at with my swim right now, I know that I'm not in great swim shape, but I've got, a month to get it back. So that's why when I talk about frequency in the pool, I don't talk about, ball buster workouts and super long swims. I'm trying to get my head straight, like you're just talking about. I want to leave that pool every time wanting to go back the next day and feeling just a little bit stronger. I don't want to make it all up in 2 days.
Right.
I can already tell that my body's just starting to loosen up, and I'm starting to I feel like I'm not super weak out there, but it's just that motion that you're not used to doing, and If you're tight and you're not relaxed doing that motion, it wears you out even quicker. And so I'm just trying to think about fluidity of the stroke and not overpowering the water yet or whatever, just slowly kind of easing into it. But I also think about that with my run. See, my bike is the strongest, and I can risk that one a little bit because I'm a pretty good recoverer off the bike. Mm-hmm. But if I try to do that in the pool or in the run, that can really screw up my schedule. So, as of like yesterday, I cleaned my chain the night before, and I was like, I want to go just see how this feels. So I wasn't on a bike day, but I went out to ride a little bit and rode for like 10 miles and came back, and my plan was to do a decent little run, and I didn't really feel it, but I ran off the bike and I really cut it short and left it, like as a just sort of, I just did a little run more than I did a workout, and that felt great, and it was a good move for me, I think, because if I would have tried to maybe go twice as far on that run, it would have really zapped me. But you can sense sometimes that you're feeling on an upward kind of path, and that's when we're like, I'm starting to feel better. I think I could go out and really, and the next thing you know, the next day's gone. And I just think that's a real tough spot for people sometimes. It is for me, because you just start feeling better, and then that's when you got to really rein it in. It's the same probably thing in a race course. It's like I'm feeling great.
There's this really, really fine line with enough. This is enough, and then this is too much. And that's like, and of course, that's like a problem with so many things in life, is that everybody always thinks more is always better. I need more money. I need more friends. I need more cars. I need more clothes. I need, more, anything. I need more training. I need more races. I need more, it's always more. No, rarely does you ever hear anybody say, I probably just don't need it. I just need less.
Yeah.
That's just not in most individuals' vocabularies these days. And the same thing especially is in training, because again, you see a million different people out there, and Joe Blow is doing 20 hours a week in February or and like, I got to do that, or more is always better, more. And there's just this really fine line in doing a workout that has a purpose, and the purpose is to get get a stimulus, that's going to cause an adaptation so we can come back stronger the next time. Whereas, so use this analogy for example. Every single workout you do, picture a bridge, one that can heal itself. You've got a bridge, and you're going to take a gigantic, swing at it with a sledgehammer, and you want to hit it just enough so that the next day when you come back, it's repaired and healed itself, and can withstand an even bigger sledgehammer. But if you take the sledgehammer to it too many times on one day, well, then it breaks, and then you can't use it the next day. So there is this. It's if you want to look at it in terms of like, it is, and that's just like one of the hardest, most difficult aspects of coaching is how big of a crack, how big of a dent in a foundation can I go without compromising the structure, and then wake up tomorrow and have it healed, or mostly healed, to where we can do it again. And maybe go a little deeper. And that's just, it's a very, very hard, it is, without question, I think the hardest thing to do with coaching. But as for athletes, it's, am I going too easy and not doing enough, or am I going too hard and not recovering enough? And I think there's a very, very fine line in taking things way too easy. But then again, nobody ever got hurt from going too easy. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I think a lot of times it's always good to err on that side. Like I tell athletes all the time, like there is no such thing as going too easy. If you're feeling like you need to, like there's no negative, it doesn't it doesn't turn you into a slower athlete. Like if you're a 13-minute runner and you ran 5 hours a week and they were all at 13 minutes and you all took them super, super easy, and you did that for months and months and months, you would become an infinitely better runner. Versus an athlete who thinks they have to do speed workouts and track workouts every single day, you're more likely to get hurt and never be able to reach that point of actual full-on transformation. And so it's that balance. Is this is enough or this is too much? And too much is when too many things can actually, happen that are negative.
Yeah, I guess so. The whole puzzle becomes this. Sometimes when we're out on a run and we have it scheduled for a certain amount of time and it feels just great and we just want to keep going, and we do keep going. And then we come back to the next day again and it's sort of like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. But that feeling is what we're searching for in the race, right? And you got to think about how that thing comes about, how we get to those places in our training that happen, frequently throughout the training season. It just sort of happens. You just feel like you want to keep going on the bike or whatever. I mean, it's not, I would say those are kind of rare, but they do happen. And I guess it's all about, how do you train that, get that mind going and think about how to make that happen in the race. I mean, that's the ideal thing. Or it's like, that's what you hear from people. It's like, man, it just, I don't know, it all clicked today. And yeah,
and well, I mean, and that's where, like, and I, sometimes will get a lot of pushback from athletes when I start working with them that they're not running hard enough or often enough or whatever. And especially depending on what age you are, like it takes a while to learn someone's body, like regardless of all these fancy metrics or HRV training or heart rate or the fitness informed thing. A lot of it is just like discussion. But I would rather take, if we're looking at chopping down a tree, and I don't really know what I'm getting into, because I don't want the tree to fall over. I just want to take a small little axe to it and then let it, regenerate and heal itself so it becomes a bigger, stronger, more durable tree. Well, I'd rather go at this new tree that I don't know anything about with scissors or a small like hand axe than I would a chainsaw, because you just don't know. And then, again, like two things happen when you start off responsibly working, in my opinion, responsibly working with someone, especially with running, because you know this from working with me in the past. Like, if I'm ever going to overextend you or push the limits of what your body may or may not reject, it's always going to be on the bike, because it's so much of a safer place. It is a no impact. You might be, a little bit over fatigued the next few days if you do overextend yourself, sure. But are your joints and your tendons and your bones going to be like brittle or to the point where you thought you might have injured something? No. I mean, I remember specifically, that the day we had that 110-mile ride on the trace in the storm, where you come back after doing like 30 or 40 miles, and that's all I had for that day. And I pulled up next to you and I said, "Turn around, we're going again," and totally doubled your day.
Yeah.
You made it fine. Were you a little bit tired afterwards? Sure. But back to what I was saying about ramping people up slowly is that, two things happen when you, especially with running, when you slowly ramp up people, is you do two very important things. One, you're being responsible in building their durability and their base by adding in more frequency and more running, becoming more durable, and then not overextending themselves with these like crazy hard interval sessions. And then two, you're giving yourself more time to learn about a body that is also at the same point becoming more durable in case you do make a mistake, versus starting right off with somebody and be like, all right, let's go out and let's do Track Tuesday and do a 400s when I know nothing about you or nothing about your body or nothing about how you respond to stimulus or running, or you can tell me your injury history already, but who knows what you're going to do when you go hit the track, on one of those things. Everybody has their like Track Tuesday thing, but so it does two things. It gives you more time to learn a body, and by the time you feel like you've got a good grasp on what it can handle, you've created a much better, more durable body. So your chances are much less and slimmer, even if you, as a coach, because coaches make mistakes. Even if you do make a mistake as a coach, your margin for error is much, much, much greater than if you just start off and be like, all right, because everybody wants to go fast. Everybody wants to get fitter, and they think the answer is Monday. When it's not. It's every other day building it on top of each other. So that's a patient aspect that a lot of athletes sometimes have a struggle grasping.
It comes back to do you want to do it all today, or do you want to make this a long-term sport or a long-term part of your life? Because if you chew off way too much, that's sort of the ups and downs of this world that we want to eliminate, I think, is that, going beyond what you're capable of and doing that frequently is a bad idea. That's what gets us into the ruts. I know that's what happens to me is like, man, I got to catch up. I've been slacking a little bit. I got to go do more and prove that I can do a certain amount. You're always kind of like comparing what you're doing in workouts to what the race is, and you always want to go the distance and more and things like that. And a lot of times, when you're doing that on the run and you're not ready for it, I think we're not 90, but probably a large percentage of the like negative attitudes and like why we can't keep our lives in balance and things like that come from those kind of ridiculous, over the top efforts that we're not ready for. So you were saying that about I thought about this on the bike. It's a weird thing about cycling is that, I do feel like I recover better from cycling. Yeah, it can crush you. I always laugh at people. I say, I don't know, I could do the Ironman, I could do the bike, but not the run and the swim. And I'm like, yeah, okay. You could do the bike, but it's a lot harder than people think, But the reality is, I don't know why this never dawned on me, but like you're on a saddle and like half of your body, your body weight's supported. It's like that's why that isn't a bad thing to push a little bit harder.
No, it's something that you want to be able to push harder, but at the same time, and I was actually kind of going through this conversation with another athlete a few weeks ago, was that on the plus side, like you said, can you ride more miles than you can run? Yes, always. Is cycling easier on your body? Yes, always. But to another extent, is it because one thing you have and then have not working for you is that you just can't run hard days and days and days in a row. There is no like in between. Like your body's going to say, nope, I've had enough, I'm shutting down. And even if you want to run chill, you can't. Whereas because you're working the entire system, the bones, tendons, ligaments, your cardiovascular system, both anaerobic, everything you're doing is getting worked. Whereas you hop in on the bike and you're doing a lot of hard cycling sessions, that can also lead to overtraining because you might not feel that same run fatigue because it's not your whole body, but working your system so hard on the bike with intervals or hard things or big gear work or hills or whatever it is or hot or difficult weather, you can also overtrain that way on the bike because it's hard to pull things back because the rest of your body's like, wait a minute, I feel fine. But you also don't want to tax your system over and over and over and over and over again to where it becomes overtrained and shut down and rejects what you're doing. So cycling, while you have a much larger room for error, you can't push that. You can't take it for granted that it's just cycling and you can recover better and faster every single day. Because if you do it 4 or 5 times a week and you really go after it, then you're going to dig yourself a hole that's going to take more than just a week to get out of.
Or EPO.
or you could go the route of some age group triathletes and hop on EPO or steroids or whatever else is there, whatever they're using these days.
Yeah, because come on, man. I mean, I agree. But you think about like a Tour de France, what that what that does to somebody's body.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, there's cyclists. I mean, I guess so. If that's all you're doing is cycling, you know, you can obviously build that up to like incredible levels, especially with recovery. If you're not running and swimming or whatever, if you're just kind of focused on the cycling aspect of it with massages and things like that.
Yeah, but I mean, even they can't.
Yeah.
You know, at the highest level of cyclists on the planet, where a lot of them are probably doped up to the gills with the greatest technology and the greatest recovery tools and the greatest, you know, probably cheating method around, where their life is only to pedal a bike. You don't see them go off the front to win every day. You know, you see one go off the front, and the next day he's like barely hanging on in the back. You know, because you just can't do it day in and day out. You have to, and that's why you see like even the tour with the top leaders going for the yellow jersey. They don't try to win every stage because you can't. You pick your battles, and yeah, a lot of it is like the game of cycling, and you know. The mountains is where it's usually at, but that's why you see them picking their days or hiding back in the peloton and saving their legs. Because for them, like 110-mile flat ride, they just kind of sit. They sit behind their team. You know, they sit in the very, very back. I mean, you look at, you know, a peloton of 100 riders of that caliber on a flat road. They're probably cruising like 30 miles an hour, and I bet you their heart rate's like 110 at the back. Because they're getting so much draft off so many great riders that it's just like a walk in the park for them. And so, yeah, I mean, it's always, you should always be mindful of, again, that balance of too much and that balance of enough. Because, listen, just enough is usually plenty versus, one more mile or 20 more minutes or, coach has me down for 2 hours. I'm going to go 2:15. That might sound like a good idea, but more often times or not, I've had athletes come back and say that just those last 15 minutes was the worst idea they could have done.
Yeah.
Or going a harder interval for a longer time was the worst idea they could have done. And then guess what? It's everything else. We go back to the drawing board and have to rework or take longer recovery or, so there's just overextending. And again, that's where, I think that, athletes, when they ask about coaching or self-coaching, is that honestly, the most difficult part of this, I think, of the self-coached athlete is to know and be objective if they're actually working hard enough or if they're working too hard. Mm-hmm. Are they taking too many days off? Do they even need these days off? But it's, even if you're a self-coach athlete, it's always good to have a sounding board to, to talk through your training. How are you feeling? Because I tell my athletes all the time, I can tell by your voice or what you write that you're about to need some recovery long before anything in your training does. And there'll be occasions where I'll see a Training Peaks like result, and it was a pace and a heart rate I'm not really accustomed to seeing from that athlete, and I'll just shoot him a text, "Hey, how's it going?" Mm-hmm. And oh man, today was a rough day. Or hey, I'm not feeling very good. Or if their comments are like, "Yeah, today was a struggle." I could barely get out of bed. I'm like, all right, well, let's change things up and let's not do tomorrow's hard ride. Let's just take it easy. Yeah. And so it's always better to have more than one set of eyes, because as just how we are as humans, we think more is better. And then it's hard to kind of see the whole picture and be objective, because we're always either two things. We're always either super stubborn and that our way is the only way and I'll never change, or again, just back to how we're kind of being like groomed as a society. It's like, the ADHD triathlete they try 19 different training methods in 1 year because they see so-and-so doing it, or so-and-so doing it, or so-and-so's got this magic workout, or this magic sessions, or I'm doing these, or now I'm doing these. And listen, if somebody says they've got this like magic formula, and sometimes even when people talk about like, yeah, I really enjoy your training philosophy, it's not really just philosophy. It's just like, just be consistent and be smart. Like, it might seem, the only reason I think sometimes people tend to think that I have a different kind of training philosophy is that if you talk to most coaches, all the answers are out there. They're just not these like headline grabbing 30-minute this, Ben Greenfield says X, that you can do an Ironman on 9 hours a week if you train just like this, or all these like crazy, because everybody likes the headline grab, but in reality, like there is no such thing as a secret workout. There is no such thing as a secret philosophy or training method. There are zero. And if someone says they have the next biggest thing or the biggest thing, they're full of shit, because it's total 100% garbage. If you want to succeed and you want to reach your potential, just work hard and work smart every day and just put the time in. And that's really all that needs to be done. It doesn't need to be, taking 19 different approaches throughout the course of the year, because people do the same thing. I'm on this diet, I'm on this diet, I'm on this diet, and they change like 19 diets throughout the course of the year, and every one they do is perfectly right all the time. Like
for a week.
Yeah, just like pro triathletes, it's hysterical. Like 1 year they have the greatest gear ever and the greatest bike and the best brands, and they're so this, and then the next season they switch all their sponsors, so they're selling them all for like super cheap, and then the next year they have the newest, biggest, bestest. It's just like, dude, like, just, with your training, just stick with it. Be consistent. Be positive. Don't take days off just because, and work hard and you'll be successful. And that's really is all. There is no secret. Yeah, is there a tough balance in terms of, coaching and working with athletes and having somebody to talk to in terms of overtraining or undertraining? Sure. But in terms of like having some kind of secret sauce, no.
I grew up in an era where, it was kind of this just do it era, you'd see these guys or girls in the gym, and it's just like one more set, one more, and it was always that mentality, but we were young, in college. I mean, there's this thing about, we'd take batting practice in baseball, and there was this thing we'd, take BP till your hands bled, and it was sort of this like, rough and tumble to the, beat yourself up and push yourself to another level it's just sort of like, just do it, man, and push another line drill out or whatever the case may be. But I think what we forget is that, a lot of us used to be, active in sports or athletes and things like that, but we were young, man. We could recover just because we were young. But we still have that sort of mindset, and you think that it's like, man, if I could just do one more 500 in the pool or whatever, but we have to watch. I mean, as we get older, I mean, I just speak for myself. I mean, I have to really watch that, because that's sort of the built into my DNA. And whenever I'm like, oh man, I just need to do one more hill repeat when I'm absolutely fried.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm like, sometimes I'll do it, and it will literally knock me down for 3 days.
Yeah.
And I just think that, like you said, it's such a fine line. But it usually comes down to like stopping, taking a few breaths, and go, man, how do I feel right now, and what is this going to do to me? Just going, it's always better to err on the side of caution, especially as you're getting older. And You know, you're trying to make this a sustainable lifestyle. And that's like rule number one for not being able to do that is just doing too much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
It's
feel
very
like the races, man. Feel
Yeah.
like, how does a race make you feel? You know, that's, you know, like the 1 or 2 time or whatever, how many races you do. Remember that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And you shouldn't be having that, I wouldn't think, in workouts. I mean, at least to that degree, you know. That's why we don't, you know, practice doing an Ironman on a Saturday.
Oof. Yeah.
You
It's
know?
it is. It's so much like.
But a lot of people kind of do that, man.
Oh, I know. I see it all the time.
They'll ride 90 and then run 20.
Oh, I know, because I get questions about it all the time from athletes. Hey, the tri group that I'm in, they're all doing 100 miles and they're running 15 off the bike.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that sounds like, without question, the worst idea ever. But no, I mean, then again, you know, I think that, you know, like training is so much like you can or can't. You can, or you make the mistake of leaving your steak on the grill like an extra 30 seconds, and you can just ruin it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm a medium rare guy, as everyone should be, but it's like just to have fine balance between, like, you got your medium rare, and you're like, maybe it leads a little bit longer, and you leave it on for like an extra minute, and all of a sudden it's like overdone, and you're like, there it goes, and you ruined it. But it's a balance with training. It's a balance with, you know, what you think may look good and look reassuring, because there's so many things in life and in training, as we always talk about, because training and life are so similar. I mean, training is life. Is that although it might look appealing and look reassuring and look fulfilling, rarely does it actually translate into feeling reassuring or feeling, you know, fulfilling, you know, in the way that we live our life, in the way that we train. And while a 100-mile ride and a 15-mile brick run might sound reassuring, I can without question tell you that it is not going to feel reassuring.
No.
And it's just, you got to just know that you're doing the right thing. And like we said, like, there's nothing wrong with, you know, you don't want to do less. You just want to do enough, and don't look at the workout for what it will show you. Look at what you think the actual workout can do for you. Is it going to propel you forward, or is it going to wreck you?
I like that steak analogy, dude, because what happens is, like, when you do that and you overcook your steak and you don't enjoy it, you don't want to eat steak for the next, like, few days. You just, it sort of like leaves your palate, and you kind of, I think that's a good analogy for workouts, because if you don't want to do something so hard and overcook it that you don't want to do it for the next 5 days.
Yep, exactly.
And that's what'll happen, whether it's a swim, bike, or run. But yeah, man, that whole, the reason people do that 100-mile ride and 15-mile brick run is all mental. It's all confidence or lack of confidence. That's really what that boils down to. You know, it's like, I got to prove to myself that I can kind of do it before I actually do it. But if you think about it, like, how many people, you know, what percentage of people finish Ironman?
Yep.
It's high, very high, and everyone doubts it. You know, maybe half the field, you know, I would say they're first timers, half the field in a given race. Everyone doesn't know.
Yep.
If they can finish it, right?
Yeah, it's true.
But you guess what? They do.
Yeah,
Most
I mean,
of them, unless there's
I mean, Sebastian Keeley has this, like, great, this great quote that if you feel totally confident about your Ironman, you're probably overtrained.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and like, and if he's saying that, I mean, you know, but I think he's talking like that level of triathlete that's like, I've got to do 5, because there are so many, you know, just like the 90 RPM bullcrap that people keep to continue to perpetuate as like the gospel out there. So if you're listening and you're that person, just stop it. but there's also like the same camp of like, you have to get in 5 100-mile rides before you do your Ironman.
Oh yeah.
You have to swim continuously for an hour and a half before you do your Ironman. You have to run at least 23 miles after a hard bike, to do it. I'm like, first off, 0 of those are true. But those are like these, again, people, it's funny because people are much more confident to gravitate towards that like insane amount of have-tos and overextending and overdoing it versus the other part of it. Because like you said, the longer and the more insane it is, it's more about your lack of trust and confidence than what you're doing than it is, actually training for a purpose and not just choosing to exercise for a very long period of time.
Yeah. Well, you know me though, I'm always erring on the short side.
Dude, you are the king of if we ever release and if you're interested, you can always email us at crushingiron@gmail.com. If we ever release the whiteboard training plan series, it will be the minimalist approach to succeeding in triathlon. I think some people would enjoy that. Not everybody can do it, but yeah, I think that if hey, listen, people wanted the new music back, we gave them the new music back. People want whiteboard training plans, they're going to get whiteboard training plans. So
yeah,
the people ask, we give.
Well, yeah, my training plan has worked to finish Ironmans, and now while I wouldn't recommend it necessarily to finish an Ironman at your like dream level, but it certainly works. Something about it must be working.
Yeah.
And I do err on the side of caution most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that's the thing about it. And final thought on consistency is like, when I'm not consistent is usually when I go out of my zone.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I got to make up ground.
Playing catch up.
Yep, playing catch up. But if I'm going consistently, I'm comfortable getting off the bike while I feel good, or out of the pool while I'm feeling good, or running just enough to kind of be like, all right, I had X amount more in me.
Yeah.
I can leave that out there, and it's like, why burn heartbeats?
Mm-hmm.
In a way, it's sort of like when I'm consistent, I'm confident. I get confident too, and I think that's just another life thing. When you're consistently doing something, you're more confident with it.
Exactly.
And that is a big deal. Back to the original part of my swim is that when I'm swimming often, not across the English Channel distances, but getting in that pool and
Mm-hmm.
and one day I'll take that leap and maybe go a little longer because I'll feel really good about it, but otherwise I won't push myself to go long just for the sake of it.
Right.
And that, I think, is kind of a good baseline sometimes.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, sometimes you feel it. Sometimes you get out to the lab and you're just going to cook for like 20, 30 miles and you end up doing 70. It just happens.
Or you head out for 7, you end up doing 7.
Yeah, yeah.
It can do that too. It can do that to you as well.
Yeah, listen to your body, listen to the podcast. Be a reminder.
That's a great ending line. Listen to the body, listen to the podcast. Let us know your thoughts. And hell, we'll check you next Monday.
Crushing Iron Group search on Facebook is our private group where we're coming in there. We got over 50 people going to Chattanooga. In fact, we need to start organizing that. So if anybody wants to be the sort of point person for our Chattanooga trip, to kind of like social coordinator, let us know.
Yeah, give back.
Give back. Get everybody organized. Get the bib list going. We're going to have a lot of people wanting to track everybody, and we want to see who's out there and make sure we know who's all going to be down in Chattanooga. If you want to kind of host the tent, if we're going to have a tent, we're going to try. I don't know how to do that.
What, you got a roast in at 9:30 in the morning?
Yeah, I'm cooking roast.
The heck is that?
That's
Jeez
just my
Louise.
coffee machine.
Oh, gotcha. I thought it was like, yep, time's up for the podcast. We'll see you next week.
That's the timer, podcast timer. Okay, yeah, crushingiron.com. Check out our coaching. We've got a couple camps coming up, but I think they might be sold out.
Yeah, next option is May swim camp is open, a few slots. June triathlon camp is sold out with a waiting list, and we have 3 spots open for August camp. So if you have any questions or want just flat out more information, just shoot me an email, c26coach@gmail.com. I'll send you a PDF of the tentative camp itinerary and maybe a few videos to wet the palate.
All right.
All right, man. I'll see you later.
That's it for Crushing Iron podcast number 156, I believe.
Ish.
57.
Ish.
2000. Okay.
See you, man.
See you, bud.